have been shot at Great Mills High School. It sounds like the shooter is one of them. We have confirmed that, and that shooter was taken down by a school resource officer. So 2 students believed to be just innocent bystanders.
And at this hour, we are learning that there is a prayer gathering happening at noon at the Cornerstone Presbyterian Church. Pastor Nilsson will be in the church to pray with anyone who wants to stop by. Again, that is happening at noon in the sanctuary for Great Mills High School and the community there of St. Mary's County, Maryland. So just passing that information for you along to you. Again, at this point, we're just trying to sift through the information that we're getting and getting quickly.
And there's been very little of that.
Very little of that. So pardon our redundancy, but just trying to make sure that we're getting the clear information to you and the correct information to you.
And we did dispatch crews, multiple crews, right after 8 o'clock. As soon as these reports first started coming in, we've got Brad Bell, who is on his way. We have got several of our other reporters who are trying to make their way down to Great Mills, Maryland right now. It's been almost 2 hours now since they set out, and again, not managing to make it there on the scene just yet. Hoping to have some sort of an update from them once they do get there. Usually by now, once we hit that 2-hour mark, we would be getting some sort of information from the sheriff's office, the public schools there, somebody, the principal, anybody, trying to at least disseminate as much information as possible to try and appease these parents, because you can only imagine the sheer terror that must be going through these parents' minds right now, waiting to hear, you know, was my student one of the ones hit? Or is my child okay? Can I come pick my kid up? You know,
what happened?
What happened?
Where is my kid?
You know, was the person that was involved in this the same person that was talking about it in the hallway back on February 20th? I mean, there are a lot of things that must be running through a parent's mind right now, and so we would love to be able to relay that information and try and, you know, calm some nerves, but again, no information coming out at all.
At all, except that this is over and it's been contained, and as you mentioned earlier, it was contained fairly quickly it seemed. We heard the reports of a shooting, and then we heard almost immediately it was contained. So as soon as we get more information, we'll pass it along to you. But again, Great Mills High School is one of 3 high schools there in St. Mary's County. The enrollment there hovering around 1,550 to 1,600 or so. We've been told that this is a very diverse school, 52% male, 48% female, diverse in ethnicity as well as diverse in economics. So a very diverse school. But, you know, according to their Twitter page, they're a very good school. So just trying to get more information about exactly how this unfolded, but we do know it started about 2 hours ago, shortly after 8 o'clock, and reports now that 3 people were injured, one of them being the shooter.
We've been hearing from Larry Hogan, the governor of Maryland. We've heard from Steny Hoyer, who represents the...
There's still time to save at Nissan now. Don't miss big offers on Sentra and Altima, both with automatic emergency braking that could stop for you, standard on our most popular models. The technology of tomorrow, available today. Time is running out. Save big on our lineup of sedans. It's time for an upgrade. Hurry into Nissan now. Offers end soon. Get a low $149 per month lease or get 0% financing for up to 36 months on the 2018 Sentra.
And you're looking now at live pictures just outside of the school. You can see they're directing traffic. That looks like an armored vehicle going toward the school, or maybe away from the school, but toward the school. You can see there's school buses lined up there on the left side of your screen. Those presumably are the school buses that will shuttle those students to Leonardtown High School, where parents will meet their students. Of course, this is a blocked off road. We're probably not getting very much. Yeah, we're not going to get much closer to this. So this is probably the view that we're going to see for a while here. Parents, you're not going to get closer to this either. So go ahead and head over to Leonardtown High School. Hopefully those buses will be leaving Great Mills and heading that way so you can meet up with your students. But again, just reading articles here as people are talking to these students who were in the school or who managed to make it out at some point, they're saying that they did indeed hear a loud noise and made it into a classroom, and the school was put on lockdown immediately. But one student told CNN and the Baltimore Sun that he did see one person fall. Couldn't tell if that person was injured or just maybe caught up in the hubbub. But at this point, he says he's thankful to be alive. He wants to know who did it and who got injured. Horace Holmes is alive for us now in the newsroom with more.
Got off the phone with two reporters from Baynet.com who were on the scene. One of those reporters has a son who was in the school. She was able to text and talk to him by phone, and she gave a little bit of information about what is going on. She said that when she was talking to her son, that her son reported a very tense and chaotic situation inside the school. She said she was talking to him from, he was in an office in the school. She was speculating that it was probably part of the protocol that they had gone through in an active shooter, that they were told to go to a certain spot, and that's where he was, calling and talking to the mother. Now, they are reporting, she was telling me that her son was saying that the shooting happened on a basketball court. This again coming from this Baynet reporter, a basketball court. They couldn't tell us exactly whether it was a basketball court inside the school in the gym or a basketball court outside of the school. But the reporter was telling us that, well, it probably wasn't outside because it was raining very, very hard out there in St. Mary's County at the time that the shooting happened, shortly after 8 o'clock. She was saying that the students arrived at school at 8 o'clock. Her son was in class at 8 o'clock. He did not hear anything, but the word got out that there was indeed an active shooter, and then there was a scramble for kids to go to places where they had been training to go in the case of an active shooter. She also told us that her son said that there was a student that got on one of the school buses coming to school this morning that nobody recognized, and there was speculation that that may have been the shooter. We did record our interview with her. We're going to turn around that sound so you can hear from the reporters at the school from Baynet.com. They were providing, as a matter of fact, the video that you see down there on the right-hand corner of your screen is coming from those reporters out there at the school. So that's the information in a nutshell that they've given me over the last couple of minutes. We're going to have the audio interview that I just conducted with them in just a couple of minutes, and I'll come back, throw it back to you, and we'll come back down and let you hear that audio.
Okay, Horace, thank you for that. We've also been able to get our hands on the exact letter that the principal there at Great Mills High School, that principal is Jake Heibel, and as we've been talking about, back on February 20th, there were some conversations happening within the hallways there at Great Mills High School alleging to the potential for a school shooting. Those conversations were reported to school administrators, and as you can imagine, parents there at Great Mills High School were very concerned. And so the very next day, on February 21st, the principal there, Dr. Jake Heibel, sent a letter out to parents that said, in part, yesterday, we received a report that a student in the hallway during transitions overheard two students mention shooting and school. We have interviewed the student with our school resource officer, viewed video, interviewed other students, and contacted central office. The threat was not substantiated. Late last night, additional information was circulated extensively on social media about a potential threat at school today. Law enforcement was contacted and an investigation was conducted, which included interviews with students and parents to determine the validity of the potential threat. The threat to Great Mills High School has not been validated at this time.
And we do have someone, a coworker of ours, who knows a mother who has a student in this school system. And according to him, she and other parents were not pleased with the response to that social media threat that happened about a month ago. Again, as you can imagine, that combined with the February 14th Parkland, Florida shooting, combined with the fact that this is now the 16th school shooting of this year.
And we're only, what, 7 weeks into this school, or into this year.
And we are all just on high alert. So, of course, when a parent hears about a social media threat, this isn't good. Then to wake up 8 a.m., you just dropped your kid off at school, you know that your kid just got to school, and now we're hearing reports of a school shooting. It is all very alarming. So we are trying to get you as much information as we can. What we do know right now is that this was contained very shortly after it happened. We do know that 3 people are now at MedStar there in St. Mary's County. One of those 3 people is indeed the shooter. Just trying to gather more information about how this unfolded and who this person is. Let's go back downstairs to Horace Holmes, who has more information for us.
Yes, I was telling you just a few minutes ago, I spoke by phone to Suzanne Copeland, who's a breaking news reporter for Baynet.com. But she also has a son who attends Great Mills and is in the school at the time of the shooting. Let's listen to what she had to tell me. So your son is in what grade?
He's a sophomore.
He's a sophomore. Tell me what he told you were you able to talk to him or just text with him?
I was able to talk to him and I was able to text.
Okay. What has he been telling you about what was going on in the school? Where was he and what did he hear and see?
He told me that he was in an office somewhere on lockdown. He told me he was going to be safe. And then he told me that allegedly the shooter had shot himself.
How did he know that?
That I do not know.
Okay. Do you know where he was at the time of the shooting?
I'm not 100% sure. He just said he was in an office somewhere. I don't even think he knew where he was at that point in time.
Was that part of the active shooter protocol that they've gone through, that he ended up in an office, or was he just there for other reasons?
You know, I'm 100% not sure because I know that the school starts at 8 o'clock and this all happened right around everybody should have been in their homeroom period. So he may have went into the nearest room.
Did he talk about any chaos in the hallways, or did he hear anything?
No, I have not got any of that information from him.
Did he paint the picture of the scene inside the school?
Just that it was extremely scary.
And he never really saw anyone with a gun?
No.
And was he able to detail what happened as teachers and school security responded?
I'm sure he would be able to. I haven't gotten a chance to really get that far into detail with him on everything.
Do you know where he is now and where the other students are?
Right now, he is on a bus to the tech center in Leonardtown.
So the lockdown is over, according to your son, and all the students have been let out of the school?
I don't believe all of them have been let out yet. I believe they're doing a room-by-room release on buses to the tech center.
So they've released students in areas that they've already checked? Correct. Okay. Any other information that he was able to pass on to you that you want to share with us?
No, not at this time.
Okay. What are you hearing from your reporting on the scene about who the shooter may have been and what started this and where exactly this happened?
Well, from what I've heard, I did speak with a parent on the scene, and he stated that his child said that a student he didn't recognize got on the bus, and when they got off the bus, he was walking around the school with a gun to his head, and that student that witnessed this went and told his teacher right away.
And what happened from there?
I believe 911 was called, and they tried to locate. I don't know any other information regarding that.
So, is this a student that got off the bus and went in the school?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Did he go into the school, or did all?
I believe he did go into the school, yes.
And to your knowledge, that may have been where the shooting occurred?
Yes.
And what about the reporting that it happened on a basketball court?
I did not hear that firsthand, so I can't confirm or deny.
Okay, all right. So that was Suzanne Copeland, again, a reporter from Baynet.com, the breaking news reporter. She has a son who attends the school, a sophomore. She was able to talk to him by phone and through text. And she was also able to talk to some parents who talked to their children on the scene. Again, this is reporting from Suzanne Copeland. We're not able to confirm any of what she said, but it is quite interesting what she's hearing from the scene at Great Mills High School. So that's the situation. Back up to you guys.
Well, really great work, Horace, with that interview. Really great work. So Dave Lucas joining us up here on the desk as well. And it's interesting because, okay, Dave, we'll get to you in just a moment. Brad Bell finally live there for us on the scene just outside of Great Mills High School. And you've got a parent there with you?
Yeah, we do. Robin London, come on, step right in here. You have a child at the school. Tell me about the call you got.
Well, I was on my way to take my younger son to school this morning. I got a call from my 15-year-old son that goes to Great Mills High School, and he said, "Mom, come and get me. Somebody just got shot." and my heart dropped. It really did. We send our kids to school to get an education, and then we get calls that there's shootings and people are dead in schools. When is something going to be done? I mean, you have no metal detectors. They're not searching these kids' backpacks. They don't know what these kids have when they enter these school buildings. And then you get calls that your kids are not with you anymore. Something needs to be done.
Tell me what he said about the incident and what
he didn't say much. That he heard the gunshots and he took off running and told the teacher that someone must have been shot. Wow. And I'm so thankful to the Lord that he spared my son.
Tell me what you're doing now.
Because bullets have no names. I'm sitting here, they're telling me to go to some school in Leonardtown, but I'm sitting here because I don't want to go there. I want my son out of that school. I'm waiting for them to release my son. They're telling us to go to some school. I just can't go there.
Well, the plan is to bus the children over to Leonardtown High School, and they're going to have reunions in the auditorium there where you won't be in the rain and that it'll be safe.
I don't care about being in the rain. I want my son out of there. Okay. I want him out.
Did he tell you any specifics about the shooting?
No, he didn't.
He just heard some shots?
Yes.
All right.
And he took off running.
Thank
Before
you.
the bell rung. How did this gentleman get into school with this gun?
Well, those are all the questions we're going to try to have answered. Thank you, Robin. Wish you the best.
God bless.
Boy, can you just imagine the pain and anguish and, you know, just the fear of the unknown that parents like Robin are dealing with. And as I'm going to show around, Dale, if we can, without wrecking the lens, we've got some other parents arriving here as well, coming here because they just don't feel comfortable going to Leonardtown High School. They want to be as close as possible to their children. Of course, the instructions from the high school, from the school system, the police, the sheriff, everybody down here is to get to Leonardtown High. That's where they're going to go ahead and do it. So, look, down the street, you can see all of the buses that they have brought in. They are bringing buses onto the campus. Those buses will take the kids from here, the students from here, over to Leonardtown High School for reunions. It also appears that they've got some extra buses out here to sort of block the scene. Traffic is creeping by a little bit. For the most part, this area is sealed off. So this is the first time I've been able to get with you on camera, and I want to, if I may, go ahead and recap what I've been able to learn from multiple sources as we've been driving down here. And that is that this shooting started. A student with a gun opening fire. It's been described as firing at random, and we have been told by multiple sources that a school resource officer reacted and in fact brought that shooter down. Not yet ready to report finally on what the conditions are of the students, but again, I've spoken to multiple sources. There has been some confusion about the exact number, but what I have been told is that it's a total of 3, including the shooter, and that the injuries to one of the students might not be all that serious, might have been shot in the leg. That is very preliminary. You know, right now, the school system, they felt once they got things under control that they, you know, their focus now is on the rest of the kids from the school and getting them with their parents. You heard that raw emotion from Robin London talking about her own child and the agony that she is feeling at this point in time. And so then the criminal investigation will continue. I've been told by sources that this happened in a fairly confined area of the school. Basically, one place in the school, and it's not that big a crime scene where it happened, and so most of the school was unaffected. I've not yet been able to confirm what the precise setting for this was, but a small area in the school. You look down, this community's stunned by this. The whole nation has been on edge. This school, like so many others, has been dealing with threats. Not very long ago, and certainly actually even before the Valentine's Day shooting in in Florida, and since there have been a number of social media threats that they've had to deal with here, most of them, all of them considered unfounded. We've heard that police presence was stepped up for some time, but then it backed off. So that's where we stand right now. I want to continue to try to work our sources and see if we can get more information and get some confirmation on the various conditions of those involved. But I think that the rest of the story is what you just heard from Robin London there, the pain and the anguish that parents, these children, are dealing with. You know, we've had all these stories in our area about all the schools, and I have had high school students look me in the eye and say they're just scared. They're scared because so much is going on. And now it's happened in this community. That's only going to really ratchet up those emotions. The one thing that seems to have happened here to limit the damage, we have been told that a school resource officer took action to bring it to an end. I want to jump away now, if I might. I'll be able to hear. I'm going to see if I can gather some more information and get you the very latest as it comes in. Back to you guys.
Brad, that is absolutely heartbreaking for that mother. Just listening to her talk,
in her
the
voice,
anger, and she is right. You send your kids to school to get an education. You do not expect to get a phone call from your kid saying that someone has been shot.
Before the first bell even
Before
rings.
the first bell. I totally get her frustration, and I can understand why she's standing there waiting for her kid to come out of that school, get in my arms, I'm taking you home, laying eyes on you. But again, Sheriff's Office is saying head to Leonardtown because they do plan to bus those students over to Leonardtown. Dave Lucas is here with more information, kind of the parallels between this situation and what we saw less than a month ago in Parkland, Florida.
Interesting things to talk about here, but I want to get to your point just a second ago, because this is, we wonder at what point do you reach that tipping point? Where does this become something than we just wring our hands about
Well,
and
I think
say,
a lot of
isn't this
people thought Parkland was that point.
Or Sandy Hook.
And it may very well have been, because we're just a couple of days away from what could be a huge outward and visible sign of not just the nation's sickness about this, but a constituency that Brad Bell talked about in there. These kids, he said, high school kids are looking him in the eye and saying, we're scared to go to school. And that's the kind of thing that comes home and gets talked about at the dinner table and gets much more than just sort of the notion of, wow, this is a really bad thing. I see it on TV all the time. St. Mary's County is not exactly where you would expect something like this to happen, and yet there it did today. And that gets me to the other thing that I'm interested in and wanted to share a little bit. I just happened to be in the chair when it happened at Parkland, and we were watching what was going on in Southeast Florida, and there are some parallels here between Stoneman Douglas and Great Mills. Both of these are highly rated schools for academics, and that is sort of an interesting parallel, I think. Both of them had very diverse student bodies. There are a lot of kids from different backgrounds in these student bodies. And the other thing is, and we haven't really yet delineated officially what the role of the school resource officer was here at Great Mills, but it certainly does appear to be in stark contrast with the school resource officer there on the ground in Parkland, Florida on that fateful day when they knew there was shooting going on inside and he stayed outside the building. That's been well documented, but what we are hearing here from the sheriff himself, apparently, it was that the school resource officer that may very well have brought down this student, and we're pretty sure now, the reporting seems to have been very solid on this. This was a kid who, according to reports, and you heard Horace Holmes say this, got off a school bus with a gun pointed to his head and started walking down the hallway. And that was confirmed by several tweets that we heard earlier today. It's difficult to take eyewitnesses' accounts because you see things, but you may not be able to corroborate them. But when you start hearing the same thing over and over, that's when it begins to take shape and to have currency and consistency. All of these things are starting to line up a little bit. And I was struck immediately with this place, Great Mills High School in St. Mary's County, and Stoneman Douglas in Parkland, Florida. These are schools that if you didn't know they were different, you would think are very much the same.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. And we were also talking a little bit during Brad's interview with that distraught mother about the lack of metal detectors in schools, and clearly trying to get any type of gun control legislation passed. It's going to be a tough act. Obviously, we see that in any type of change. However, would putting metal detectors in schools not be something that could immediately be implemented and just maybe save a life?
At the very least, keep things outside rather than inside,
right.
Which may have been the case today.
And you talked about the fact that, you know, DC public schools and a lot of inner city schools do in fact have metal detectors, and this is a trend that a lot of people have noticed. These school shootings are not happening in inner city schools.
Yes, that's right.
They're in very suburban areas. All right. Let's get you out to Brad Bell. He is live there on the scene, as close to the scene as he can get, and he's got a student. Brad.
Yeah, Aaliyah Lomax is a student at Great Mills. And Aaliyah, tell me what your experience was.
My experience when I was coming to school, because I came late, all you can see is the cops, ambulances, like everything, like just crowding the school. And it was scary because like you see parents down there just like screaming for their kids, and it's like you don't expect this, because we just had a walkout just a week ago about gun violence, and everyone was there trying to like get recognized like about how the things we like are like voting for. Like we're just trying to like make sure that we don't have to deal with this, and we deal with this a week later.
You were not in the school when the shooting took place?
No, I was out the scene coming in, and that's when they were telling everyone to leave the school grounds because everything was going on. And that's when you see cops and ambulances coming in and cops running towards the doors and just screaming, saying, everyone get down. So it was just like...
What was in your heart at that moment?
My friends and like the people that I associate with, and especially my teachers, because I didn't know who was going to get hurt. And I was praying for my friends because I thought that something was going to happen to them. And they were so scared for their life. And I'm here texting them, asking them, are they okay? But they didn't even know themselves, because they were just so caught up in the moment and they didn't know what to do. You had people in the locker rooms, the hallways, if not the classrooms. And not even like too long ago, people were on the buses. Like there were still kids in there just waiting to get to the tech center.
Have you spoken to some kids that are in the school?
Yes, I have.
Anybody with first-hand knowledge of what happened?
They were saying that they were very scared, like they didn't know what to do, and they were just texting everyone, make sure that everyone's okay, because everyone on social media is just asking, are you okay? Did you get hurt? Did you make it? Are you safe? Like that's all, everything was everybody's doing.
Did you participate in the walkout last week?
Yes, I did.
And now this?
Yeah, it's crazy because there were some disrespectful kids there at our protest when they were just talking, but some of the kids, majority, they were actually like standing there like fighting for like what we thought was right. And some kids were getting bashed because of that. But it's true, we shouldn't have to go through this. No one deserved to get hurt today at all.
Thank you. I'm glad you're okay.
Thank you.
I wish you the best for your friends. Okay, thanks. Thanks, Aaliyah. Aaliyah Lomax, a student at Great Mills. Are you a senior?
I'm a freshman.
You're a freshman?
Yes, sir.
Very poised freshman from Great Mills High School. Aaliyah, could you come back? We'd like to continue our conversation if we could. Just a moment. She's got to safely cross a lane of traffic. You know, go ahead. Aaliyah, I'm going to relay a question. Go ahead. She's with us now.
Brad, we've been talking all morning long about this social media threat that apparently went around the school back on February 20th. Can you ask her about that, what she heard about it, and if she felt like administrators...
I was going to ask you about that. There were social media threats previously here back in February.
We did have a social media threat, but the thing is, we had school the next day. Like, there was a threat, and we had like notes saying like, oh, this is why we missed school, because parents were pulling their kids out from the school because they thought that it was actually going to happen, but it was going to happen to the Leonardtown High School instead of ours.
Did you see any of those threats with social media?
Yes, there was like a Snapchat post about it, and like all social media was going off saying like, oh, let's not go to school, oh, we can't do this, we're not gonna do this. And some kids came to school, some people left. I left early too, because a lot of people were scared, because we don't know, because there used to be threats here at Great Mills previously.
Yeah, so since what happened in Florida, there have been, we were talking about it before, there have been social media threats at almost every high school in our area.
America has the most shootings, basically. We don't get this anywhere else. And especially, we don't really get it here, but today's made a difference.
We're talking about something very real today. When those social media threats come in, and you're aware of them, and you see them on Snapchat, and you're getting dressed to go to school, has there been fear over these last weeks?
Yes, fear for me, but others no, because some others think that it's not going to happen, and they just think that they're not going to be the ones that get hurt. But the truth is, you can get hurt any day, but people just don't understand that, or can like really console with that, because like they don't think it can happen here, because we live in St. Mary's and nothing happens down here. And the fear that's been put into everyone is just like saying like, oh, should we go to Great Mills, should we go to a different school? Like, they just don't know.
There's been talk of a school resource officer perhaps acting heroically here today to end the threat. Do you know the school resource officer here?
No.
Are you aware of a school resource officer presence?
No.
A cop in school?
I don't know his name, but I think I know who you're talking about, because I always see him.
Tell me where you see the officer. I mean, what does he do?
He's there, like, if we have like certain altercations, then like he's there for us, like to like get everyone back on track, and like he talks to us so we can like get ourselves back into like our state. Because like when we represent Great Mills, we like try our best to be as one, almost like a family. So we try like not to like make it seem like that we're like coming at our differences, because we work it out. That's what we do, because we're the Hornets.
So you don't know his name. You're a freshman. That's understandable, and you're probably not getting in trouble, so you don't. You don't have to deal with the officer. Is it a comforting presence to see the officer, or you just? Some
days, because when you look at a like officer like that, you just think, oh, something's bad gonna happen. So you just have to like wait and see until like you know what it is.
Okay. Thank you, Leah. You're getting soaked.
Yeah, I know.
Go get warm.
Thank you.
Go get warm. All right. Thank you. I'm wrestling with this umbrella here. Let me go ahead and get that out of the way. You know, there you go. We were talking about it when we first got here, the emotions involved with so many of these kids. I have a high school senior. My youngest child is a high school senior. And I got to tell you, when the reports come on in the morning, he doesn't want to look at them. It's awful. And it's just something that the kids hate to think about. It's gut-wrenching, and it's frightening, and it's in their minds, and certainly fresh in their minds with the walkout that just happened, and many planning to come to the march on Friday. So, you know, there you go. Those are the parallel things happening with this incident. We have the incident at the school, still trying to piece together all of the details of what went on there, but at its heart, it was gunfire in a school, apparently by a student directed at other students, school resource officer intervening. That'll be investigated. That'll be, you know, thoroughly found out. Motives will be talked about, but the rest of it is that you've got all these other hundreds, thousands of kids in this community dealing with what you just heard Aaliyah talking about, and that is their fear, their anger. They just don't get it, you know, how they can not be protected, even though allegedly this is carried out by a student. They don't get it. They don't get why the grown-ups can't keep them safer. The presence of the school resource officer, you heard it, she said, he's there. He responds and he deals with things. As a freshman, she doesn't know the officer well at all. So that's another part of the story that will be fleshed out in the hours ahead. But there we are. The bus line is still there. They're still moving students from Great Mills over to Leonardtown. Some parents that want to be close to their children coming here instead, and then getting the word and changing their minds and moving off to Leonardtown to meet up with their students. Guys,
really great interviews, Brad. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, 10:37 is your time now. It's just been about 2.5 hours since these reports first started coming in of the shots fired there at Great Mills High School in St. Mary's County. Horace Holmes is live in our newsroom. And Horace, you were one of the first ones to uncover this February 20th incident and these threats that were made via Snapchat. What have you got for us now?
Well, we just talked with Representative Steny Hoyer, a congressman who represents the district where Great Mills sits. As a matter of fact, he told me that, you know, he's lived at one point in time and has a house down there in St. Mary's, very near to Great Mills. Of course, Congressman Hoyer has responded to all of the mass shootings, all of the school shootings. When I talked to him, he's on his way now from Washington down to the scene at Great Mills. You could tell in his voice that he was very shaken. This one hit very close to home. This is what Steny Hoyer had to say just a few minutes ago to us. Congressman, I know with every school shooting, you feel the pain and the loss. This, though, has to be an even more poignant feeling for you because this is a district that you represent. This is a school and a neighborhood that you know very well.
I do know this neighborhood very well and the school. This is the county in which I live. We're a relatively small county. It's the most southern county in our state, St. Mary's County. It is a peaceful community. I know the sheriff very, very well. He and I are good friends, Tim Cameron, and I know some of the school resource officers.
But Congressman, tell me, when you heard that it was this school in your district, in your area, tell me your feeling.
I was sickened. I was angry. I was frustrated. I was appalled and feeling, of course, for every parent obviously now is on edge. Not only at Great Mills High School, but I think schools throughout the country now. And we had thousands of students last week on the west front of the Capitol of the United States who were 15, 16, 17, 18 years of age, pleading with the Congress to take some action to keep them safer.
Representative Steny Hoyer, he's on his way down to Great Mills right now to talk to the sheriff and the county executive, the principal of Great Mills High School, and you could just hear in his voice of frustration. He's saying to me, you know, what to do next? What do we do next that will actually make a difference? We will talk to him when he gets down there to Great Mills. There'll be a press conference, we understand, later on in the morning or early afternoon, and of course we will bring that to you. Back to you guys up in the studio.
All right, thanks so much, Horace. We do have John Gonzalez there live on the scene for us as well. John, are you able to talk to any students or anyone standing around who can give more light as to what happened?
Well, you know, we're in a neighborhood right next to the school. Take a look. We're literally right on the other side of the fence here. This is the side of Great Mills High School. We just saw a number of police officers, full tactical gear, high-powered rifles, walk into this building here that looks like an old gymnasium. Not sure if they're going building to building right now, but we just saw at least 20 police officers walk into that building there. You can see the outside. You've got sheriff deputies. They've got the entire area blocked off, and you have a number of the school buses here on standby. Over 1,600 students at this school, and at some point we understand that some of the students, if not all, will be bused to Leonardtown High School. I talked about being in the neighborhood here. Let's walk a little bit down this way. The gentleman that lives in this unit says that he heard all the commotion, didn't hear any gunshots or anything like that. Let me see if I can knock on the door. Edward, you there? We just wanted to talk to you real quick. You're on with us on Channel 7 right now. Yes. You live right next to the school. What did you hear this morning? What did you see?
We actually didn't hear any gunshots or anything. Only commotion we heard was sirens, and then we looked and we seen parents, people just trying to figure out where their children were. And it's really, it's kind of devastating because you don't know. I mean, I have friends that have kids there, and they were standing outside. A couple of them came inside and we talked, and it's frustrating. You still don't know what's going on. But I just wish everybody is well, and and hope this stops, because this has got to stop.
And right now, you're pretty much on lockdown here in the neighborhood, not being able to come in or out, really.
Well, I try to stay out the way and let them do what they need to do, because, you know, people moving around, you still don't know what's going on.
Edward, thanks so much for talking to us. Let's swing back this way before I send it back to you inside the studio, just to give you another vantage point here from the neighborhood. You can see all the buses lined up here right on the side of the high school here in St. Mary's County. And you heard Edward say they know obviously that something terrible has happened here, but everyone's just waiting to hear more details, more information. We hope to get more information shortly. I was talking to the spokesperson with St. Mary's County. She tells me that they are hoping to have a press conference at some point, either here at the school, near the school, or at a park just up the road. So we are waiting to hear back from them to see when we can bring more information to our viewers. That's the latest from St. Mary's County. Back to you inside.
All right, John, of course, we are monitoring this school shooting situation very closely, but as you can see from all of our live shots there, they're dealing with rain and cold. This is an ongoing situation, especially as parents are trying to get to the school there, Leonardtown High School, to pick up their students who are being bused from Great Mills to Leonardtown. Let's get a quick check of the weather. Steve, what are people dealing with at this hour?
All right, all depending on your location, either a very cold, wet rain or a lot of snow. Do want to head up over toward the Frederick area. This is what it looks like right now. St. John Regional Catholic School, and you can see big puffy flakes of snow falling from the sky. Newly issued a winter storm warning now includes Frederick County. This is for today until 8 o'clock this evening. So just off to the north of us, you're looking at Frederick County, also over toward Washington County for that winter storm warning, and that winter weather advisories, northern Montgomery County and western Loudoun counties. This is for the daytime hours today, and the rest of the area under a winter storm watch. Everyone for the day tomorrow. That will likely upgrade to either a winter storm warning or a winter weather advisory later on today. Here's the latest with Stormwatch 7 satellited radar. Notice the green around the Capital Beltway and all of southern Maryland. So no rain right now for southern Maryland. However, head just off toward the north and west, northern Montgomery County to Frederick County, looking at that sloppy mixture of sleet mixing in with snow around Frederick at this time. We'll zoom in just a little bit closer. Here's city of Frederick right over here where it is snowing, but just off toward the south and west, Brunswick and Buckystown. That's where you're looking at that mixture of sleet and snow and rain at this hour. Now, just to give you perspective, the distance here for the areas that are seeing all rain and all snow, it's only about a 40 to 45 mile drive, if you're a bird, I should say, the crow flies, in terms of the distance from the district over toward Frederick. We are going to look for this weather, nasty weather, to continue not only for the rest of this afternoon, but into the overnight hours. And tomorrow, we're going to convert everything over to snow. Going to step over out of the way for you. This is our latest updated map for you. We could be looking at anywhere between 1 to 3 inches accumulation. Southern Maryland for the district, Arlington, Alexandria, Rockville, Gaithersburg, around 3 to 6 inches, with heavier amounts to the north and west along the I-81 corridor.
All right. Thanks, Steve. We'll getting you back to this coverage of what is unfolding in Great Mills, Maryland this morning. What we can tell you right now, what we have been able to get confirmed, 3 students shot, one of them the gunman. That gunman taken down by the school resource officer who opened fire on that gunman and brought his shooting spree to an end. But there were 2 other victims in this shooting. They have been taken to the hospital, and we are still waiting word on their conditions. Right now, Nathan Baca is live for us in the newsroom with more on what he's been able to uncover from social media. Nathan.
Right, so now we have some good news for parents. Students are talking about how they are being taken away from Great Mills High School to Leonardtown High School. This tweet from student Molly Davis: I just boarded the bus to leave the school to go to pick up center. I feel like there's so much I want to say, but I can't find the right words. I wish everything was different. Now, we also have some official word as well from the St. Mary's County Public School District. The Reunification Center for students is at Leonardtown High School. Parents, guardians, please have your ID ready. So there's some note there for students. But I want to actually show you really quick here. I want to scroll up. This is actually just a few minutes ago, like the school district tweeting out some pictures from another school of students just enjoying a day in class separate from what is happening at Great Mills High School. But also saying, the official word just 2 minutes ago, there will be a news conference held at 1 p.m. at Chancellor's Run Regional Park regarding the incident at Great Mills High School today. So that's where we're expecting some more official word. I'm also going to show you a little bit right over here. right here. This is the a local church that was saying that they were going to be having a church service. But also, let's see, there was one tweet, if we could bring it up, from one of the students not so long ago talking about just what they were experiencing. I could paraphrase as saying they were talking about just a little bit of the pandemonium that was happening, running, screaming, that was happening with this right here. So I was in the same area where the first shot went off in Great Mills High School. I didn't get a chance to see who it was or who got shot, but I'm so paranoid. I ran as soon as I heard the shot go off. My prayers go out to everyone that got injured and for kids still there. That is from a person who was a student. We also heard from other students as well on social media talking about the loud bang and running away. And there was another student who was talking about that police were escorting kids to and from the bathroom. This was after the closure. This student here, I'm still in my math class at Great Mills High School, but talking about how things are safe here. So again, the word from the school district, first off, parents need to have their ID ready when they go to Leonardtown High School. And second, that we're expecting to get some more official word at 1 o'clock when they have a news conference at a local regional center. Back to you guys in the studio.
Nathan, before we let you go, just wanted to gauge how much you've been able to figure out, I guess, from these students' tweets. We've been seeing things online about, you know, if there was a female that was maybe the original intended target. One person reported seeing this gunman with a gun pressed to his head walking, you know, off the school bus. Have you seen anything online that it seems to be credible that could corroborate any of that?
Well, it's certainly a reminder that a lot of kids nowadays, a lot of high school students don't use Twitter that much. They often use Snapchat. We have been seeing some things on Snapchat. Can't report too much on those just because it's not confirmed. We have been seeing some videos which we have been sharing with you lately, but Snapchat has been reporting on everything from students believing that they know who the shooter was. That is not confirmed. Students believing that there is a specific student that was injured. That is also not confirmed as well. But we have some words starting to filter in from social media of that sort, and we're working to get those actual facts for you. And again, it's kind of a reminder that the social media landscape is changing in the past year or so, where you don't have kids use Twitter. You have them typically use Snapchat. And Snapchat, what we can do is we can do like what's called a geolocation. We can look at those tweets, at those Snapchat communications within a specific geographic area. But we're continuing to monitor the social media, and we'll have more as it comes on down.
All right, thank you, appreciate it.
Let's get you to some video right now. It looks like the video there on the bottom right corner of your screen. You can see here, this is shortly after the shooting. Authorities going into the school. You can see the canine officers there, as well as several, looks like maybe SWAT going into the school with long rifles. This apparently happened shortly after the shooting. Now, we do know from Brad Bell and his confirmation with his sources that a school resource officer actually was there at the school and took action immediately and was able to take care of the gunman there in the school. But we do know that at least 2 other people were injured. So in total, 3 people injured. We're getting word now that they're in critical condition at local hospitals in DC, Virginia, and Maryland. Also an interesting fact from our Kevin Lewis that because of the bad weather today, medical helicopters were not able to fly. So these were all ground transports to the local hospitals. Right now, we do have Brad Bell live there on the scene for us. He's been talking to parents and students. And Brad, I just keep thinking about that mother, Robin London, who was just absolutely frustrated and angry. And she even said, you send your kid to school for an education. You do not expect before the first bell to get a phone call from your kid saying there's been a shooting.
No, absolutely not. And, information is what they want. We were just spending a lot of time talking about social media. And the problem with social media is that most of the people posting on there really have no idea what they're talking about. This shooting took place in a small, confined area in the school, we're told, not, the entire school. Very few people actually have firsthand knowledge of what happened there, and even those who think they witnessed something oftentimes get it wrong. So the hunger right now is for accurate information. And we do understand that the sheriff, Tim Cameron, the St. Mary's County Sheriff, will be giving a briefing, not here. Obviously, we're out standing in the pouring, freezing rain. He's going to be at a park just up the street where they have some shelter, and he's going to give a briefing at 11, a quick briefing, full press conference at 1. We'll be prepared to bring that to you live to get the accurate information. With regard to the emotions here, boy, they are running absolutely high. Yeah, you heard it from the parent, and you heard it from the student that we were able to bring you just a little while ago. And producers, I don't know, are we able to bring back any of that sound? You can go ahead and tell me if we can. But the parents got the word. They're supposed to go to Leonardtown High School to be reunited with their students, but they want to come here. They want to come where their children are. There's been a school shooting, and so that is the parental instinct, is to go immediately to your child. So they've been coming here. Again, you can see the buses lined up. I believe some of them are to block the view, but also buses are being brought in to remove students from here and get them over to Leonardtown High School and get them reunited with the parents. Producers, do we have any of the sound from either the parent or the student that we brought you just a little while ago? Able to turn around? All right. So, parents and students feeling very much the same thing. What we heard from them was just frustration and anger. We spoke to a student who was a freshman here, eloquent beyond belief about her emotions. She had just participated in the walkout last week and felt deeply about it, and was an active participant. She said she was frustrated by some of her fellow students who didn't take it all that seriously at the time, but she felt something needed to be done. And she's just hurt that it happened here. She's worried about her friends. She's certainly aware of all the Snapchat chatter and is wise enough to know not to believe all of it. But she's heard terrifying things. When she arrived at school this morning, she saw those officers from that image I believe you showed just a little while ago running into the school. She was late and was not in the school, and that's why she was able to speak with us out here. And she's just horrified. The parents have all of that emotion, plus they feel as deeply what their children feel. The anger from the couple of parents that we've spoken to. They're also talking about the social media threats that were made at this school, as they were at so many across our region in the last several weeks. The parents can't help but wonder if there was something to it, and they're wondering if the sheriff or law enforcement could possibly have done more. At this point, we don't know. So the student talked about the school resource officer. Early on, I'm hearing from multiple sources is that officer is being credited with containing this threat. We don't know all of the details yet. Certainly we've heard the chatter about the student with the gun to his head as well. We don't know that to be true. Again, we'll hear more from the sheriff. But here at this Great Mills School, what we do know is 3 students injured. We believe one of them is the shooter. Not 100% sure of their conditions at this point in time. But yeah, those parents and students are just in agony right now. Just disbelief, agony, anger, all of the above.
All right, Brad, thank you. And we do want to try and get that sound cut, those interviews that Brad did, both with a parent and with a student. Both of them just, I would say, hopeless frustration is the best way to describe what both of them seem to be feeling. And so we are trying to get that interview cut because we'd love to bring it to you. In the meantime, let's get to Victoria Sanchez, who is in our newsroom. And Victoria, we understand you just spoke with a student from Parkland, where unfortunately this is all too real and I'm sure much too fresh for them, where it was just over a month ago where 17 students were killed in that school shooting.
I just got off the phone with Jocelyn Milius. She's a 17-year-old junior at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. And she said once the news came down that there was yet another high school shooting, she said the students started to cry and that the teachers are trying to comfort them during this time because it's still very real for them. It was on Valentine's Day that a gunman went into their high school and shot 17 students and teachers who died there at that high school. When I spoke to her, she said that she is afraid because she's going to be traveling to Washington, D.C. for the March for Our Lives, which is just 4 days away. She says she's very concerned with her safety. There is a previously scheduled press conference in about an hour that D.C. police will tell people about the security protocols that they have in place when it comes to this march. The Associated Press is estimating a crowd of 1 million. The crowd organizers actually said it would be 500,000, but that number seems to be ticking up. Again, the March for Our Lives is on Saturday. When I spoke with Jocelyn Milius, who is that junior at the Parkland school, she says that she is scared, she is sad that this happened, but she said that they stand with the students at Great Mills High School. This is what she had to say to them.
I want to tell them that we stand with them. We know what it's like to experience this firsthand, and we know how hard it will be, and we want them to fight. Because if they don't want this to happen again, we have to fight for what we believe in. And since the adult won't do it, and so this is our job. I want them to be safe. I want them to get all the help they can and try to go through this together as a family. Just like my school is going through this as a family, I want them to be strong and go through this as a family. And I would like to see if some of them would like to come to Washington to join us in March.
That was Jocelyn Milius, a 17-year-old junior at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, where 17 students and teachers were killed on Valentine's Day. She has plans to come up to Washington, D.C. for Saturday's march. Again, 4 days away, the March for Our Lives that was organized by Parkland students to call for gun reform. I spoke with Jocelyn, and she said she's currently at school right now and that students there are horrified that yet another school shooting has happened and that the teachers are now comforting those students where it is still very fresh in their memory that this shooting happened to them and now another one here in Maryland. I'm going to send it back to you.
All right, thanks so much, Victoria, for the update there. Of course, again, we've been talking about the number of school shootings that have happened so far this year. CNN is reporting 16. Parkland, of course, we all remember that was just a little bit more than a month ago on February 14th. There was another shooting in January at Benton, Kentucky, in which 2 15-year-olds were killed. 16 people were shot. Here we are today. Dave Lucas is here with me, joining me right now. We've also got Ryan Hughes live for us at Leonardtown High School. Ryan, that is where officials are telling parents to go to pick up their kids from Leonardtown and not to go to Great Mills. What's the scene like there? Have any school buses gotten there yet?
Adrian, no, we have not seen any school buses arrive just yet, but as you can imagine, parents are very anxious to get here. I want to pan over right over here and show you there's just a line of vehicles, parents parking all over the grass anywhere they can before they walk in through the rain to the school, anxiously waiting to get and talk to their son and or daughter. And with me, I have a parent here, Dion Simmons. You told me that you have 3 children that go to Great Mills. First of all, talk about how have you talked to your children yet?
Yes, I've talked to my oldest son, who's a junior, Alonzo Simmons. He called me initially while he was en route here for his first class, which is an IT course. He told me he saw some policemen flying past his bus, and he got text messages about an incident that occurred. And then next I heard from one twin, David Simmons, but I hadn't heard from Donovan for more than an hour, and then he finally contacted me, said he was okay, and they were locked down in the media room.
You know, as a parent, we were just reporting on this 1 month ago in Parkland, Florida. Now it's happening right here in our backyard. What's going through your mind knowing that your kids were inside that building when this shooting happened?
my heart was in my throat. I didn't know how many victims were involved, if any of were my children. I kept hearing different accounts of the story about what occurred. The first story I heard, the shooting occurred as children were entering the school, but I don't think that happened actually. We don't have all the facts right now. I'm just thankful that my children are safe, as well as others that I know, that I work with. Also, they're on their en route here.
What's the communication been like between the school and parents? Have you been kind of, obviously they're still sifting through the details, but have they been keeping you kind of in the loop as to what's been going on?
Yes, via email, via text, Facebook, messaging. My friends, my families, everyone has been in full contact with one another.
So we're still awaiting those buses to come over from Great Mills here to Leonardtown. They're telling parents to make sure, of course, you have an ID. Do you know what that process is going to be like before you can actually take your child home?
It might be mayhem. I have both my government and my driver's license. My son, David, I don't think he's made it here. He was going to call me the minute he arrives in the parking lot. But Donovan and Trey are here.
Okay. All right. And I know you said to me before, you're just so thankful, so grateful that your 3 kids are going to be okay.
Yes, I am.
Okay. Thank you so much for talking to us. I really appreciate it. And guys, again, let's take a look over here because there is a lot of police activity outside Leonardtown, doing a little bit of traffic control. Parents obviously coming out here in the rain, getting a spot anywhere they can. They're going to be going inside to Leonardtown High School into the auditorium. The students, they were evacuated over at Great Mills. They are being bused to this location. We have not seen any of those buses just yet, but again, they're telling those parents to make sure that you have your ID. So this is going to be somewhat of probably a lengthy process. So parents, obviously, their nerves are already rattled, but they're also telling them to kind of be patient. They're going to want to make sure this is done orderly and to get them reunited with their loved one as soon as they can. For now, we'll send it back inside to you guys.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, so again, this all unfolding about 8:15 or so this morning. Here we are, 11:04, still waiting for information from police at this hour. Brad Bell is also live there on the scene at Great Mills High School. He's been able to talk to a parent as well as a student kind of about what happened thus far today. Brad, do you have anything else for us?
Yeah, and we're having a little camera trouble, so just bear with us here in the rain. It's tough. I've got a student, Tajon Butler. You're a student at Great Mills. You were late for school this morning. Tell me exactly what you heard and saw.
Well, I had walked into the school and I had heard 3 gunshots. And after that, that's when everybody was running outside and people was texting. They was like, what happened? What happened?
Don't say any names.
And then they had said one of my friends had got shot in the leg and a girl had got shot and the boy had shot himself.
So that's what people told you?
Yes.
What did you see?
Only thing I saw was everybody run out, and then I had heard the gunshots. So I had ran out too once I had came inside the school.
Okay, and tell me about the gunshots. You said you heard 3 gunshots.
Yes, I heard 3 gunshots. There was at least had to been a pistol or something, because it didn't sound like no assault rifle.
Okay. What's in your heart about this, dude?
Well, it's really heartbreaking because I know I go to that school. I got cousins and family, and my girlfriend was there at the time. And at the time, first thing I thought was I had to get to her and everything. And I was upset because I didn't know it was going down. I didn't know how it was going to go down, and I didn't know what happened to her.
Okay. Tell me your name again. You're Tajon?
Tajon Butler.
All right, Tajon. What year are you?
You're
freshman?
No, I'm a sophomore.
Sophomore. All right. Thank you very, very much.
You're welcome.
All right. Look, we wanted to bring that story to you. We just bumped into him here, and he was late for school, but heard the gunshots. He's got some names he's tossing around, but we're not sure about those names because at this point it's hearsay from what he said on social media. But I wanted to share his story with you. Send it back inside now.
All right, Brad, thanks so much. And important to note that Brad is getting to talk to students who were late to class this morning. So that is why you see students outside of the school. To our knowledge, other students are still at the school waiting to board buses to go to Leonardtown High School. These students outside right now, they were late to class, and that's why they're outside the school.
What's interesting what Tajon just had to say there squares exactly with what we have heard in terms of official accounts of the who was shot,
where,
and the one thing that we don't yet have an official word on. The account was a school resource officer took down the shooter. which we understand is a student, or at least of that age. But there have been a couple of accounts that square with what Tejan said, and that was that this person shot himself. So again, that's at this point, we know the numbers. We know 2 males, 1 female. We heard from the young man there that his friend got shot in the leg. Don't know about the young woman who we were told earlier went down when shot. And that there are now 2 people in critical condition. Maybe that also sort of begins to get us toward the track to the truth here, and we're standing by. You heard Brad say earlier that we're expecting the sheriff to hold some sort of a briefing momentarily. And I caution anyone who expects this to go on any sort of regular timeline. You'll only be disappointed. It'll happen when it happens, and we will bring it to you at that point. But there's also a bigger news conference scheduled for 1. They are 2 different things right now, but we're endeavoring to get both of them to you.
The video you're seeing right here on the left hand of your screen, this is from several hours ago. This is SWAT and authorities. You see a canine officer there going into the school. This, from what we are understanding, this is after the scene had been contained. This is after the threat had been taken care of. And again, as you mentioned, from our sources, what Brad Bell has learned is that a school resource officer was somehow involved in this, involved in taking down that shooter. But again, as you mentioned, and this is why we're very leery, is because social media and what these students are saying, the story is a bit off.
Yes.
So we're still trying to figure this out. But again, the scene here is still a lot of authorities there on the scene. So again, students are being bused from Great Mills High School to Leonardtown High School, where parents can pick them up.
And I hesitate to have to make this statement to you, but have a look at the police officers in full tactical gear. They've got a canine unit with them. They also have a cop in his service uniform right there. They are not moving in with any urgency or alacrity or in fear for their own safety. They're going in because what always happens in a situation like this is after you have what you think is the situation contained, they then start going room to room. And you have to look in every closet. You have to look under every desk. You have to get eyes on this whole situation, and when you get the totality of that, then things start happening. Like you evacuate kids, you put them on buses, you get them to a safe place. But all that has to happen before the rest of this play.
And I understand, had that happened, perhaps in Parkland, Florida, maybe that shooter would not have been able to escape with all of those students and be caught hours later. So for all intents and purposes, from what we can tell, that is them doing their job, protocol. They're going to be calm because, to their understanding, probably based on the information from the school resource officer, the threat, to his knowledge, has been taken care of. But again, they're going in blind. They don't know, is there another threat? Is someone lying in wait? So they're going to have to make sure that all of the other 1,600 students there are safe. So again, that was video from just moments after the active shooter was taken down. That is our understanding. And again, those students now at this point, here we are about 3 hours later. So it does take some time. So if you're a parent, listen, I get your frustration. We heard from one mother who was there at Great Mills saying she wanted to pick up her kid, have him in her arms, and take him home with her so she could lay eyes on him. I get the frustration and the urgency there, but just know that the authorities here in this situation seem to be following protocol and seem to have this all under control. Parkland, Florida, very different situation.
Completely different situation.
What we don't see in this video is students flooding out of the school, running every which way. We do not see that here. So this is a very different situation.
The other thing that we haven't seen too, and this struck me, that the kids didn't come out with their hands up, which is, again,
protocol.
I'm sorry that we have to cover these things on such a regular basis, but unfortunately we do. And over time we have seen now what is sort of the standard operating procedure on how all this works, and those are 2 of the differences.
Yeah, they drop their backpacks. You leave your backpacks there
in
at
a
the
big
school.
pile, and they have to go through those. They send a dog through first of all to see if there's any.
And then you come out of the school with your arms up to let everyone else know, I am not a threat. That is how the alleged shooter in Parkland, Florida, Nicholas Cruz, he dropped his belongings as well and was able to disguise himself as a student and walk out. And I think he went to go get an ice cream and a drink and a sandwich, and then hours later he was caught. Let's go back downstairs to Nathan Baca right now, who's been following everything on social media for us.
Well, Adriana, students are still in the process of being evacuated to Leonardtown High School, and one potential obstacle in getting some word out is that you actually have one student here who was saying that the cell phone service at the Reunification Center is horrible. She will say more when she is out of here. So that might be an obstacle to some students getting word out to their families. So families should be aware of that, but also families should be aware of some good news from St. Mary's County Public School District, saying that counselors and other support staff are at the Reunification Center at the Leonardtown High School campus. Parents, guardians of GMHS students, please have ID ready when you come to pick them up. You heard in the previous interview that that was out in the field that parents know to have their government ID there to be able to get to Leonardtown High School. So we're continuing to monitor the situation, and you still have you actually still have some folks out there tweeting out there about the Never Again movement here in light of the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School shooting, actually posting a spreadsheet here of all the different high school shootings, actually just all the different K through 12 shootings, and now Great Mills High School is on that list. 3 injured, that confirmed just a while back through Brad Bell's reporting, but showing all the different high schools just since the 11th time a gun has been discharged at a K through 12 school since the Parkland shooting. So you start seeing some activists that are part of the Never Again movement, that are part of the Parkland shooting movement, that is they're posting these stats, and now Great Mills High School is now on that. So we're continuing to monitor the situation, but again, we're in the situation now where some students are saying that they are having difficulty getting word out because of the cell phone reception problems that some are experiencing at Leonardtown High School. Back to you guys in the studio.
And that's a complicating factor too for coverage as well, because everything is now dependent on Wi-Fi, and when you've got a lot of people gobbling up a lot of the bandwidth, that is only going to make the situation that much worse. Ryan Hughes standing by for us right now. He's at Leonardtown High School. Ryan, what's the latest?
Yeah, guys, and we are actually seeing, parents and their children being reunited right now. And I have with me Jamie right now. She is a 9th grader over at Great Mills. You told me that you were kind of not really close to the shooting, but you heard what was going on. Describe everything that unfolded this morning.
There was a big group of people walking next to me, and they told me to run and don't look back, to run out the front door, so I did.
Do you have any idea, this was at the beginning of the day, in the hallway, do you have any idea as to kind of how this all transpired, how it all started?
No, it was just like, it happened so fast, like I didn't even know what was happening.
So you're running out the door. Talk about the chaotic moments. What did you do next?
I went to my principal and told him to try to get everybody out to school.
Then what happened?
And then he said that it was a lockdown, and I still ran out because I wanted to try to get all of my friends out the door as quick as I could.
When you go outside of the school, where do you go? Where do you kind of hunker down?
In the parking lot.
Were you with a lot of other kids?
Yes.
So I know it was only 6 days ago your school was part of the national walkout. You walked out at 10 o'clock in the morning for 17 minutes to honor the 17 victims in Parkland, and now you guys are going through the same exact thing. What's going through your mind this morning, having been through this?
This is the first time I ever seen something like this happen before.
Now, were you on the buses to get over here?
Yeah.
What was that situation like? What was the overall mood on the bus?
Everybody was freaking out and saying that we're all going to die.
Oh my goodness. Ninth grade should not be thinking that. Mom, how did you first realize that everything was okay with Jamie?
When I got a phone call from my older daughter saying she was fine.
Okay. When you heard the reports on the news of a shooting at your daughter's school, what's the first thing that you were thinking?
I was thinking hopefully no one's dead, but I hear that one or more is possibly dead.
So I know that you're reuniting parents right now. The students are being bussed over here from Great Mills. Talk about that process. What was it like to be able to get your daughter and to be able to head home now?
Right at Great Mills High School, you weren't allowed in or out of there because the cops had the roads blocked off. So I had to take another route here. So that's basically what I did. And we went to the Leonardtown High School to get in the auditorium. That's where we had to go at.
You had to show an ID.
Right, show an ID, fill out a paper.
You had to fill out a paper.
Right.
Okay.
And then after you fill the paper out and they put it in a computer, then you can go get your kids.
Okay. So where are you guys going from now? You heading home?
Heading home, yes.
Okay. What's the plans for the rest of the day after, having to endure something like this?
Whatever she wants to do, we can do. It's fine. Right now, the safest thing is to get her home and get her out of the wet clothes.
Okay. Do you know anyone, Jamie, that was involved in any of this?
I know a student that was involved that got shot.
Do you know their condition, how they're doing?
No.
No. Okay. All right. Jamie, we appreciate you talking to us. I know, of course, staying out here in the pouring rain, we really appreciate you guys talking to us. And guys, take a look at the scene right here, because as more and more parents are showing up, you can see just a line of cars parked outside here at Leonardtown High School. So several students have now made their way from Great Mills over here to Leonardtown. Again, the parents are being told to, just have some patience and have that ID ready. We're also being told now that grief counselors and support staff is also here at Leonardtown High School because this is a very traumatic event, as Jamie was talking about. Many students not knowing if they were going to make it out of the school day alive. A lot of them, like Jamie, running outside, doing anything they can to get away from the sound of gunfire. So the students are still making their way here. Parents are continuing to arrive. I talked to one father. His daughter is okay as well. She sent him a text. That's how he found out that she's doing okay. He says, you know what, I didn't care what happened. I was just so grateful that she texted me and that she's doing okay. She is inside here at Leonardtown as well. He just wanted to go pick her up. We're hearing many of those stories of parents reuniting with their loved ones, definitely holding them extra tight this morning after what transpired. Guys, back inside to you.
Ryan, real quickly, do you know if Jamie was debriefed by police officers at all before she got on the bus and got over there?
Yeah, Dave,
we're wondering sort of what the choke
quick
point is here, why it's
Jamie,
taking a while.
real quick. Jamie, really quick, our anchor, Dave Lucas, is asking me, after you went out of the school and you now made your way here to Leonardtown, were you debriefed at all by police? Did they ask you any questions at all?
No, they were just concerned about everybody's life.
So they were concerned about safety and making sure that everyone got out of the building and everything like that?
Yeah.
What was the scene like with the police response? I know obviously we have multiple jurisdictions responding, as well as the St. Mary's County Sheriff, the FBI, the ATF. What's the scene like out there?
It was scary to me because I didn't know what was going on at first.
Okay. But they didn't ask you any questions, what you saw, what you heard?
No.
Okay. When you went to your principal and you told him about the shooting that transpired, what was his reaction?
He was confused because he didn't know what was going on.
And there were reports that it was just last month that there were on social media of a possible threat that could transpire. Do you remember seeing any of those threats or hearing about it?
No.
You don't? Okay. All right, Jamie, thank you again. We really appreciate it. You can see she even doesn't have any shoes on, and she's talking to us out here in the rain.
She would rather protect her Jordans.
Protect her Jordans, yeah. All right. There you go, Dave. She says that she was not briefed by any police. Their main concern right now is making sure that the students are safe and they get here safely and reunited with their parents.
Hug that girl tightly and get her home and get her into some warm clothes.
So at this point, we are still on our end looking over social media, trying to gather more information from you. The Washington Post is reporting that these 3 people are all students there at the school, including the gunman. And at this point, they are all said to be in critical condition. According to officials, including the sheriff, the shooter was a student there at the school. This occurred shortly after classes began around 8 o'clock this morning. The sheriff, Timothy K. Cameron, says a male and a female student were shot by that gunman, who was also a student there at the school. He told the Washington Post that the sheriff's office is not identifying the gunman here at this point, but he explained that as soon as the shots were fired, the student resource officer was notified by staff and students, and that person quickly engaged the shooter. Not immediately clear how that gunman was shot. The school resource officer was not injured, though, but again, that gunman was shot. Now, we've heard from some students and on social media that the gunman shot himself.
At one point, he was said to be walking down the hall holding the gun to his head.
Right. And this sheriff is now saying that the school resource officer did engage the shooter. So still kind of figuring out exactly how that gunman was taken down. But there was an exchange of gunfire at this point. All three were taken to the hospital. They, again, are all three in critical condition. The sheriff said that no question, had the student resource officer not been there, the situation could have been a lot worse. And we've seen what happens when SROs don't go into schools.
That was obviously the situation in Parkland, Florida. John Gonzalez is standing by for us live this midday right now at the facility where we are standing by for a briefing. And John, we're told apparently there are going to be two of these things. One, this, where you are, and then perhaps a larger, maybe a multi-jurisdictional news conference at one.
Dave, from my understanding is that they're going to have a full press conference with all officials at 1 o'clock, but in just a matter of moments, we're going to have an update, a briefing here inside the senior center at the Chancellor Run Regional Park, just down the street from the high school. We came from outside to inside where you see the setup and you see the room here. You got all the cameras. You've got a lot of folks ready to go. We've got with us Congressman Steny Hoyer, a representative of this district, District 5. Your thoughts, Congressman?
I also live in this county.
You also live in the county.
Well, when I heard about it this morning, I was in a meeting in the Capitol, and I thought to myself, oh my God, one more time. This is the 21st school shooting since the beginning of this year, a couple of times a week. This is unacceptable, and we've got to take action. I'm sure everybody's response was, first of all, shock, sadness, anger that this continued to happen. And so we've got to find out, of course, the facts. I don't have the facts yet as to exactly what led to this, how it was carried out, what elements are in common with other shootings of this type around the country. But we have a moment of silence. We'll have a moment of silence at some time in the next few days, perhaps tomorrow, for loss of life and for the injuries that occurred. We don't know exactly how extensive they are at this point in time. But a moment of silence is not nearly enough. We need to have days, weeks, months of action. We need to act on a comprehensive background check so that we know who is purchasing weapons, who can, as we see, have fatal results in the wrong hands.
And Congressman, this is a large school here in St. Mary's County, over 1,600 students, recognized around the state of Maryland, a very good school.
It's an excellent school, school we're very proud of, but the fact of the matter is, again, it is a place where large numbers of people gather, in this case students, and what we've seen, whether it's a concert venue in Las Vegas, whether it's a church in Charleston or in Texas.
Thank you so much. In about a minute, we're hearing behind us, Congressman, thank you so much for your words, your thoughts. In about a minute, we're told that this briefing will begin. We're going to get into place, Dave, and we're going to bring this to you live.
Johnny, thanks very much, and we'll be standing by to take everyone there when that happens.
And we hear the congressman there talking about action. Saturday, students from Parkland, Florida are taking action. There will be a March for Our Lives this Saturday. And unfortunately, as if it wasn't fresh enough for them, a school shooting, here's another one that they'll be able to talk about and be able to reference and be able to use as a platform for what they want to see happen in terms of gun control. That's what they'll be marching for. It's a nationwide effort. So we'll see this happening in cities across the country. And here we are again. This is, as you mentioned, Dave, not a place we want to be, because we get this alert as well as parents, and it's like, you know, I don't want to hear this again. I don't want to go through this again. I don't even have kids. I can't imagine having a child You just dropped off at school. You know that 8 a.m. they should be in class. Here you get a phone call, a text message, your kid telling you there has been a shooting at their school. I don't even know what begins to go through your mind.
I think we're standing by for that news conference there, and we're going to take you there in a minute. I am the parent of a son who is about to finish his graduate work. He's going to be a teacher. And I have real concerns now about Andy's safety inside a school. So there are a lot of different levels on which this is such a troubling trend, and we have to think of it in those terms. These are not isolated incidents.
Not anymore.
These are a trend. Let's listen in right now. Here's the news briefing going on.
What we know thus far is that Great Mills High School began its school day this morning at 7:45 a.m. like many other days, except for on this day, a male student produced a handgun and fired around, wounding a female student and another male student in a hallway of Great Mills High School just before classes begun. The victims of the shooting were transported by EMS, and the one male student went to MedStar St. Mary's Hospital, is in stable condition. The female student was transported to shock trauma facility, is in critical condition. And I am told that at 10:41 a.m. this morning, the shooter was confirmed deceased at Charles Regional Medical Center in La Plata. When the shooting took place, our school resource officer, who was stationed inside the school, was alerted to the event and the shots being fired. He pursued the shooter, engaged the shooter, during which that engagement he fired a round at the shooter. Simultaneously, the shooter fired a round as well. So in the hours to come, in the days to come, through detailed investigation, we will be able to determine if our school resource officer's round struck the shooter. The school resource officer is uninjured and was not struck by any firearm projectile. The SRO is with our detectives now, as are witnesses to the event. They are still at the high school in a secured area. The remainder of the students from Great Mills High School, as our protocol and process and training, we brought buses in and had them removed to the Forest Tech Center in Leonardtown for parent reunification. That is ongoing as we speak. I would like to thank my colleagues from the allied agencies that responded. It was a mass response this morning from Police, Fire, and Rescue. Charles County Sheriff's Office, thank you, Troy Berry. Major Morris, thank you. The Maryland State Police responded, as did the NAS Police, Calvert County Sheriff's Office, the FBI, and the ATF. At 1 o'clock, I hope to give you more details about this event. I know that you have a number of questions, and I'm alerted to a number of things that are out there about the potential relationship between the shooter and any of the victims. At this time, we can't confirm any of that. That is what this investigation will do. And at 1 o'clock, I would anticipate being able to release identities of perhaps the shooter and the victims as well. And we would know by then that notification is being made. So again, I wanted to lay the groundwork for what's to come at 1 o'clock.
Can you confirm the identity of the school resource officer?
No, I can't. Not at this time.
There have been threats posted on social media a month or two ago at this school. Can you say anything about if any of what happened today was related to that?
So that's part and parcel to the investigation. We'll go on to determine if anything on social media was relevant to this day. I'm not aware of anything, but again, we're going to go back and comb through that, as well as anybody involved, their social media posts.
How many resource officers are for the school?
We have a school resource officer assigned to each of our high schools.
One?
Yes, yes.
Again, we're not taking questions right now at 1 o'clock. I appreciate it. Thank
I
you.
would like to mention that the FBI has set up a 1-800 line. It's 1-800-CALL-FBI. If you have additional information that you would like to share with us, we set that 800 line up. So please give us a call there. I'll see you all again at 1 o'clock. Thank you all very much.
Sheriff, for what you know right now, can you just speak at all a little bit broadly about the response to this today, about the school resource officer's response and the police and EMS response in the immediate aftermath?
Yeah, so as I said, it was a mass response. You know, this is what we train for, this is what we prepare for, and this is what we pray that we never have to do. And on this day, we realize our worst nightmare, that our greatest asset, our children, were attacked in one of our places of a bastion of safety and security, one of our schools. So obviously that's what we're talking about right now across the country. And, you know, the notion of it can't happen here is no longer a notion. So despite training, you hope that you never have to do this, ever. And so now we're a very tight-knit community. And so now what I would ask our community to do would be pray for those victims and hope that we can return to some type of normalcy in our schools and in our community.
When was your last formal active shooter training exercise?
We train on that all the time, and in the schools was in the last calendar year. In fact, unfortunately, we've had incidences that were people with guns in some of the schools and bomb threats, which we treat similarly. So we talk about school safety, school response weekly. In fact, we've done a number of parent meetings, community meetings on this within the last couple months. That's all the questions I'm going to take. I'll see you at 1. Thank you.
Sheriff Tim Cameron, who came up through the ranks. He joined the sheriff's office 37 years ago, and he is now seeking his 4th term as sheriff of St. Mary's County.